When I was 32 years old. I raised a poor boy. Passing by the university, I saw Alex holding a girl in his arms. His eyes were red, he felt wronged but forbearing, don't think I'm dirty. A serious relationship of support. Why does it seem like I've defiled Alex? He thinks it's dirty, but there are many people who don't mind it. I blew out a cigarette, turned around and looked at the yellow-haired man who was passing by wearing a fake suit, and said, "Ask him if he is willing to be a mommy." Henry was brought to my office in the afternoon. The sunlight shines through the floor-to-ceiling windows on the 32nd floor, falling on his Balenciaga t-shirt, Yohji Yamamoto pants, and Louis Vuitton shoes. It's fake, and still fake. But he couldn't help but have a good face. Different from Alex, he looks cold and aloof, and quite proud. Henry is like a product of technology and a template for plastic surgery. Exquisite, cheap, and a bit mercenary. But I have eaten too much bran, so today I want to eat some wild boar. They are all here to sell themselves anyway, so why should I look for those who are selling unwillingly? As soon as he opened his mouth, I knew I had found the right person. I heard that you want to be my mother? Call directly? This is too sensible. But I don't play this. I feel like, today, he wants me to help him debut. Tomorrow, let me find him the resources to play the male lead. The day after tomorrow, it was revealed that he had a mistress and he begged me to cover up the negative information about him. It's just right. It's just right. I ignored him and flipped through the materials that Jack's secretary had sent me. He came from a small city in the 18th county. His family was not poor and his conditions were much better than Alex's alcoholic father and gambling mother. His grades are average, much worse than Alex's. But he was actually 5 centimeters taller than Alex. I looked up at him and he smiled at me, showing his 8 teeth. It looks good, but it's a bit flattering. I curled my lips, feeling a little disgusted. How many have you been with? Male or female? Henry's expression was relaxed, and he didn't feel ashamed at all for being offended. Just you. Fart. I said, Jack's secretary will take you to the hospital for a full body checkup. If there's no problem, come see me in a week. Okay, sis. He left happily. When I turned around, I saw that perky butt. I thought for 2 seconds whether he had put anything in it. A week later. Henry hadn't arrived yet, but I met Alex first. He was wearing a washed-out shirt, faded jeans, and a pair of canvas shoes. Refreshing and handsome, a typical poor school hunk. He got off the bus and was reluctant to even take a taxi. I really don't know where the $300,000 I give him every month goes. Don't get me wrong. He doesn't come to find me, usually I go to find him. He works part-time in the coffee shop downstairs from my company. As usual, this look attracted the little girl to ask him for his contact information. Alex refused, saying he already had someone he liked. In the past, I would have confidently believed that this person was me. After all, I am beautiful, rich, and generous. The emphasis is on the last one. What's the difference between not liking me and not liking money? It's not like I want him to love me to death. We are all adults now. You have taken so much from me, but you don't even show me some appreciation. It's a bit hypocritical of you. I walked in and sat down at a random seat. Alex didn't notice me. Just then, a girl dressed elegantly walked in. Alex saw her for the first time and froze in nervousness at the same moment. The girl wore a Chanel-style suit and a Miu Miu hairpin, looking like a rich girl. I didn't look carefully last time in college. This time, I saw the face clearly. I went through the circle of powerful people in City A in my mind, but I couldn't remember which family the daughter was from. While I was daydreaming, Alex's face was completely red. I heard him cautiously try. "Are you here to see me?" The girl raised her chin and said, "No, I just heard the coffee here is good." If Alex had a tail, it would have been drooping by now. "Do you recommend coffee?" Alex immediately and conscientiously introduced all the coffees on the menu. He spoke in great detail, explaining the origin and taste of the beans one by one. The few people in the back line walked away impatiently. The girl seemed not to have heard anything and ordered a signature drink. Alex kindly introduced her how to drink it and told her that it was a little bitter. He is now completely different from how he was in front of me. He is as humble as he can be. I didn't feel angry. Just confused. Why isn't he like this in front of me? I am his client. After a moment, I suddenly realized and laughed out loud. He seemed to think that his youth and my $300,000 a month, a set of properties and countless gifts given to him was an equal exchange. The men in our family have the tradition of keeping mistresses. I have met female college students, female celebrities, and some professionals. A few days ago, my uncle almost had a child killed, and I gave him $3 million as a breakup fee. It's hard to find a sponsor like me who is as generous as I am and looks good. Just because you and I are both willing doesn't mean you are not taking advantage. Before, I spoiled Alex and I didn't care about these small amounts of money. He took the money, but stood me up several times. It doesn't mean you have to be a tutor or do a part-time job, but it means you have to work in the student union or in the laboratory. I didn't get angry, and even asked my aunt to make some soup and send it over. Once I ran into my dad, he thought I was in love and warned me, don't get involved. My indulgence of Alex seemed to make everyone feel that my liking for him was very special. It's ridiculous. It's not like I haven't thought this way before. I had never been in a relationship before I kicked my brother abroad and took the position of general manager. Of course, I didn't want to talk about it. I found it a bit boring, so I got up and left the coffee shop. As I left, the bell on the door rang. The person behind the counter seemed to look over. That evening, Henry came to my villa. It was beyond my expectation. The physical examination report showed that he was clean and healthy, without even a nodule. Unlike last time when he was wearing a set of cheap clothes with big logos, he was dressed very simply this time. White t-shirt, jeans, sneakers. The hair that had been stylistically moussed before hung there, somewhat covering the eyes. Jack's secretary must have told him to dress like Alex. I frowned, but before I could say anything, the person in front of me had already taken off his t-shirt. 8-pack abs, all straight and neat. I don't know if it's genuine. He chuckled twice. Sister, don't you like me dressing like this? I don't like it either. As he spoke, he came over to me familiarly and touched my hand. I didn't react at once. I suddenly felt like I was taken advantage of by that yellow-haired gangster. Until, he took the rubber band from my wrist. He tied his semi-long hair back into a small bun. I breathed a sigh of relief. Then he was heard to say, "Are you hungry? I'll give you something to eat." I almost breathed a sigh of relief. He watched his aunt come out of the kitchen and leave with a garbage bag, and said with a bit of regret, "It seems you have eaten." I heard the hidden meaning in his words, hesitated for a moment and asked him, "Did you miss your meal? Do you want to eat something?" Before I finished speaking, he said thank you. He also found an excuse for himself, "I need to eat enough so that I can serve my sister later." Then he ordered himself 3 bowls of noodles and ate them all up like a starving ghost. I recalled the information and thought that he shouldn't be unable to afford food. I said, "There is still steak in the refrigerator." Henry shook his head and said, "No need for steak, you have to work first before you can get paid." I understand. I felt a little relieved for a moment and once again confirmed my decision. I should find someone who is determined to make a living from this. Half an hour later. I regret it, the refreshing scent of shower gel enveloped me. The original hint of unfamiliarity was replaced by the heat, and soon I had no time to think about anything else. Henry also didn't forget to provide me with emotional value. "Sister, you are so beautiful, I am so lucky. Sister, this feels so good. I feel like I've become low. It's like hiring a long-term worker in the village." It remained low until the next morning. I asked desperately, "Did you eat anything?" "What?" Henry was stunned. "Yeah, I ate 10 of them to make me happy." "Forget it. He didn't eat. In order to demonstrate your service attitude, you are lying to me." Finally at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I climbed up, holding my waist. There is a meeting that cannot be postponed, so I have to crawl to the company no matter how hard I try. As I was getting dressed, I heard Henry say, "Sister, can you help me enter the entertainment industry?" My hand that was buttoning my shirt paused, and then I rolled my eyes skillfully. "You've only come once, and you're already asking me for something." 10 times, he corrected. "That's not what I'm talking about." After being rejected by me, Henry's ragdoll cat-like handsome face suddenly became depressed. He frowned and complained, "Sister, it was you who said you didn't want it anymore." This understanding. I am really convinced. If I hadn't met him in college, I would have suspected that he had never received any education. Wrong. That doesn't mean he went to college there. I asked Henry, "Are you from university, eh?" Henry shook his head honestly, "No. I knew it. I made a promise casually, in 2 years, I will send you abroad to gain experience in technology." Henry hesitated to speak. "Sister, I don't want to study." I know, you just want to be in the entertainment industry." I waved my hand, signaling him to stop talking and that I had to go to a meeting. I got into the car where Jack's secretary had been waiting. Turned his head and took a look. Henry was lying on the balcony waving. Goodbye. To me. A head of messy hair and a pure and lustful face. The sunlight shone on his face, like Cupid in ancient Greek mythology. Also no pants. Very cool. Sister, come back early. I held my forehead and smiled bitterly. I must not let anyone know that I bought this. While looking through the documents, I said, Secretary Jack, please find some limited edition spring items to send to him. He is not suitable to dress like Alex, a little white poplar. He's just embarrassing me by wearing those fake things all the time. Secretary Jack was stunned for a moment and said okay. After the meeting. Dealing with a bunch of old guys. Exhausted, I collapsed into my office chair. I wasn't that tired before, but today I'm extra tired. It must be because I didn't sleep last night. The Grace family is like most wealthy families. My father and mother are in a marriage relationship and they each have their own affairs. They have a pretty good relationship. Otherwise, there wouldn't be 3 of us brothers and sisters. The idiot brother, the love-brained sister, and the perfect me. My life has been planned since I was born. If you want more, you need to fight for it. I want it. But is this really what I want? Sister. My butt felt cold. Before I finished reflecting on my life, I saw a head pop up from under the table. What are you doing? Henry kissed my thigh. I looked at him expressionlessly. Henry's model face turned red for the first time. He was a little shy, but his words were shocking. I just learned it this afternoon. I heard that presidents and secretaries all like to play this way. A very self-conscious and ambitious pretty boy. Henry thought I agreed. The white clouds outside the window were swaying, and I was speechless for a moment. In the end, am I supporting him or is he supporting me? He really wants to enter the entertainment industry. 3 hours later. Jack's secretary called the internal line. Boss Grace, Mr. Alex is here. The sun really rises in the west. Today is the time Alex and I agreed to meet once a week. It's no surprise that he came to see me. However, he often stood me up, and it was already 11 o'clock at night. I lit a cigarette and said to the person on the other end of the phone, I don't have time to see him today, let him go back. Secretary Jack was silent for a moment and said, I told Mr. Alex the same thing. He insisted on waiting for you to finish your work and see him. He is in the conference room next to yours right now. I frowned and was about to say something when a small face came over and took a puff of cigarette from my fingers. Then, he was choked. Coughing so hard that I felt dizzy. I hung up the phone. Sister, please stop smoking. Just when I thought Henry suddenly changed his tune and started to act like a caring person, I heard him say you smoke a cigar, it makes you look more handsome. The ash shook and fell onto the marble floor. I said, you go back first, I have something to deal with. Henry didn't ask any more questions, just patted his butt and left. Alex was brought in. Still wearing the same white shirt and jeans. I'm a bit bored watching it. He stood in front of me, his tone questioning, Grace, I'm fired. He seemed to think that it was me who asked the store manager to fire him. After all, that coffee shop is mine. He was paid an internship salary of $50,000 a month and worked and studied there. I raised my eyebrows, so what? Alex looked a little grim. He still stood straight, his hands hanging at his sides clenched into fists, and his tone became aggressive. Did someone in the store say anything to you? Betty is just my junior sister, and I am just doing what a clerk should do. You can't fire me so easily. You rich people are always so high and mighty. I interrupted him, then I'll ask the coffee shop to rehire you. Alex's words stopped abruptly. He didn't expect me to be so easy to talk to. Well, that's good. I smiled and said, are you willing to get $3,000 a month, the same as other interns? Alex stared at me with wide eyes, as if insulted. He was silent for a few seconds. Grace, stop it. I told you, Betty and I are not boyfriend and girlfriend. There was a hint of impatience in his eyes. I looked at him and suddenly felt that he was a little rough and dull. His skin is not as smooth as Henry's, his eyes are not as bright as Henry's, his mouth is not as pink as Henry's, his nose is not as high as Henry's, his legs are not as long as Henry's, his abdominal muscles are not as hard as Henry's, his technique is also very poor. But Henry wasn't much better. But at least he is willing to learn. Betty? This name is quite cute. I said it casually, but Alex reacted as if he was facing a great enemy. If you have anything to say, come to me. She knows nothing. I suddenly felt very funny. I deliberately asked, what do you think I am going to do to her? Suddenly, Alex's eyes looked in one direction. His expression suddenly became dull, his eyes and eyebrows were blank, and he ignored what I said last time. I followed his gaze. Polyphone sofa. A CK was lying there stealthily, listening quietly to the conversation between Alex and me. As we all know, people laugh when they are speechless. Alex finally turned to look at me. Then he saw the smile on my face. The person who was standing far away from me just now, as if avoiding me, suddenly walked in front of me. Grace, are you that horny? Just because I haven't come to see you for a month, you go find that kind of man? I want to say, Henry is not that kind of man. But I can't say it. He's that kind of man. Alex, the poor school idol who is not afraid of the powerful, suddenly had tears in his eyes. You know how dirty that kind of man is. Alex's voice is loud. He grabbed my wrist, and it was the first time he had behaved so badly. It seems that he is afraid that I will really be infected with some dirty disease. The glass on the table smashed to the ground. There was a knock on the door, and Jack's secretary said, "Boss Grace, do you need me to come in?" Alex is still there babbling. "Grace, you don't have to torture yourself to make me jealous." I raised my voice and said, "Come in." Secretary Jack walked in with two 1.9-meter tall bodyguards. The bodyguards separated Alex and me directly. They stood on either side of Alex, ready to stop him from suddenly attacking me. Alex looked at me in disbelief. I looked at Alex with a half-smile. "Who allowed you to treat me like this? As a financial sponsor, I may be too tolerant." He couldn't figure out the relationship between us. Alex turned suddenly pale. He never thought I would talk to him like this. He pursed his lips and said, "We are equal." I don't even want to hear that kind of talk. We are so equal, why don't you give me $300,000 a month? Alex was speechless. I raised my eyebrows. You should have done your job well after receiving the money, but you didn't do it. He seemed to have never heard me speak to him so bluntly before, and his eyes widened in shock. I was too lazy to pay attention to him and got up and left. Alex tried to follow but was stopped by the bodyguard. I walk very fast. Behind me, Jack's secretary took back the card for my special elevator from Alex and said, "Mr. Alex, please make an appointment before you come to see Boss Grace next time." I didn't buy Henry a house. Because he stayed in my villa and refused to leave. 2 months later. I lay there like a dead dog. Henry lit my cigar. I said, "Let me send you to the entertainment industry." But Henry, contrary to his usual behavior, was not very happy. He kissed me on the mouth and I shuddered subconsciously. "Thank you, sis. But don't worry, I still want to stay with my sister for a few more days. I'm anxious. Sister, I'm about to ascend to heaven." Clearly, 2 months ago, he was anxious to go there. That day, I gave him a card with $300,000 deposited into it regularly. Unexpectedly, Henry refused. "Sister, I don't want your money, I want you to send me to act." Good boy. I understand that it is better to teach a man to fish than to give him a fish. He is so lucky to be with me. The entertainment industry is complicated. Tech elites, nouveau riche, real estate tycoons, etc., are not that effective. But the Grace family has been involved in this field for a long time. It has an agency and is one of the 3 giants in the entertainment industry. I replied to him, "It depends on your performance." I regret it now. The cigar fell onto the carpet. When I went to pick it up, the quilt covering me slipped off. The next moment, a hand warmed me instead of the quilt. "Sister." Henry's eyes darkened and he kissed her again. I stopped him. He pouted and looked at me questioningly. I laughed awkwardly and tried to change the subject. "Don't you have anything else to do?" He stayed with me for 2 whole months. Either in the gym or studying in the audiovisual room. I wanted to ask him if he didn't have to go to school. When I think about it, he is a person who doesn't read. After trying for a few seconds, I finally found an excuse. "Don't you need to maintain your face regularly?" Henry rubbed his face. "Sister, it's all real, let you touch it." As he said this, he grabbed my hand and placed it on his high nose, then on his small mouth, then on his chest muscles, and on his abdominal muscles. I jerked my hand away. "I know, it's all true, it's all true. I think I understand." He is now addicted to it. There is no rush to enter the entertainment industry. Hurry to march into me. No. Secretary Jack's eyes on me have been strange lately. On her left cheek was written "From now on you will be king," and on her right cheek was written "No morning attendance." I patted Henry's biceps and said, "I'll take you to meet some directors tonight." That night, I introduced Henry to an idol drama director. Director Zhang was very polite. "I will definitely take care of Boss Grace's brother." "What year are you in this year?" Henry said, "Sophomore year." Sophomore? I was surprised, so small. Henry winked at me secretly, not small. What he said left me speechless. The oil has arrived. I didn't expose the gilding he put on himself. Henry tried out a scene on the spot. Director Zhang gave him the role of the third male lead. The trial clip is that after he fell in love with the heroine, he locked her up in a hotel and confessed his love to her. The heroine rejected him and slapped him. You have to act like a heartthrob and act like a domineering boss. The script has not been finalized yet, so Henry is left to improvise the lines. I will personally come on stage as a friendly substitute to replace the absent heroine. I sat on the sofa. Henry knelt at my feet. The director shouted action. Henry's fawning and obedient look disappeared immediately. His peach blossom eyes stared at me intently. His Adam's apple moved, and his slender fingers ran through my hair, turning my face towards him. Eyes met. His eyes were dark, and there was a smile on his lips that didn't reach his eyes. Do you really have to like the surname Sure? Can't I? I don't have to read any lines, I just play the role of a piece of wood. But Henry seemed to have heard me say no. He tightened his jaw, sneered, and moved forward. Grace, I take better care of you than he does, don't I? Sister, if you see him again, I will lock you up. He held my face in his hands, his eyes filled with uncontrollable jealousy. Director Zhang said Henry's acting was average. It's overacted. Not like a domineering boss, more like a mistress. But he was so good-looking that he passed. The day before joining the group. I locked him out. Sister, I want to repay you. Thank you, sister, for giving me this opportunity to enter the entertainment industry. I said, if you really want to repay me, give me some peace and quiet tonight. Henry insisted and said, but I'm leaving tomorrow. I'm going to shoot somewhere else for 3 months and I won't be able to see you anymore. He refused to leave. I pretended not to hear. There was finally no sound outside the door. 3 hours later. I opened the door. Henry leaned against the door holding a pillow and almost fell down. He suddenly came to his senses and sneaked in when I was not paying attention. In a flash. He was already lying on my bed. Sister, I won't do anything but hold you in my arms while sleeping. Okay. I didn't expect him to keep his promise, but he was surprisingly compliant. Early the next morning, the driver took Henry to the airport. Before leaving, he took off my nightgown. Just when I thought he was going to do something, I saw him stuffing my nightgown into his suitcase. I glared at him dazedly. Henry placed a kiss on my forehead. Sister, come and see me. I didn't answer and continued to sleep with my head covered. 1 month later. I received a gift from Henry. Of course, I haven't been there once this month. I did answer the phone a few times. But I've been a bit busy lately, and I hung up on him before a minute had passed. The gift is a little bear. Colorful colors. Childish and cheap. And a bit ugly. This is the first time I received a gift from a Valentine. Alex certainly didn't send me off. I mentioned this during Valentine's Day. In a high-end restaurant. I gave Alex a 1 million watch and asked him, do you have anything for me? Alex said, do you still need me to deliver it? You lack nothing. He was in a bad mood when he said this. Jack's secretary said that some time ago, Alex's father beat his mother again, and his mother came to the school to ask him for money. I understood his feelings and didn't pursue his bad attitude. 2 bear eyes looked at me. Like Henry. Pull me out of my memories. This bear looked vaguely familiar, but I stared at it for a long time and couldn't remember what brand it was. When it looked at me, I felt a little guilty. I feel guilty for not visiting the set. Just when I was debating whether to go or not, I received a call from Alex. How strange. Compared to Henry, who calls me 3 times a day, Alex rarely contacts me on his own initiative. Pick up the phone. I didn't say anything. There was silence on the other side for a long time. Perhaps realizing that I wouldn't speak, Alex spoke up. I received your apology. Let's make peace. I didn't understand. I glanced at the calendar on the table and immediately understood. Today is Alex's birthday, and many luxury brands will send him gifts today. Of course I arranged it. I liked that restaurant last time, we can eat there tonight. Alex paused and continued, I have several seniors from the lab, they will come too. I interrupted him and said, I forgot to ask Secretary Jack to cancel it. What? I said, those gifts can be considered as breakup fees. The last time I saw Alex, my mind was still in a mess and I forgot to explain it to him. I don't have that much time to spend with him about why we broke up and good games. I didn't get along very well with him. It's really a losing business. But I am a very generous sponsor and I will never ask for it back if I give it to him. Every failure is a learning experience. This tells me that I shouldn't be so generous when it comes to keeping a gigolo in the future. Too generous, it makes people feel dizzy. Alex seemed unable to process what I said. Grace, are you still jealous? It was that man who was causing trouble. I tell you, he just wanted your money. I remember now. The fabric of the little bear. It is Henry's favorite limited edition pajamas. He made it into a bear? I picked up the bear and looked at it carefully. The lines are crooked and the knots are not hidden well. Could it be that Henry really sewed it himself? Quite interesting. I wasn't listening to what Alex was saying. I hung up the phone and told Jack's secretary to go visit him on set. Private jet lands. The business car took me all the way to the crew. What a coincidence. Henry is currently filming his scene opposite the leading actress. His eyes were full of affection and he acted very well. The female lead seemed to have been stuffed in by someone and was not a professional actor. She stopped looking at Henry's face 3 times, blushing and not daring to look at him. Henry was kind and told her to take her time and not to rush. The staff member standing next to me exclaimed in a low voice, "It's bumped, it's bumped." Henry turned his head and saw me. To be fair. Actually, Henry is quite good at acting. During the audition, I don't know if he was hiding his abilities or what. He played the role of a villain and a domineering boss vividly. Just like he played my little lover. Snobbed and well-behaved, the look in his eyes when he looked at me was filled with a little bit of love. It was perfect as I imagined. Henry pulled me into his van. I soon ran out of breath. I kicked him as he was taking off his clothes in a hurry. Sis, do you want to use your feet? I am speechless. Sometimes being too sensible is not a good thing. Less shy feeling. Henry seemed to notice that I was not in high spirits and put his clothes on again dejectedly. Why did you come to see me just now? He complained to me. 3 points complaining, 3 points acting like a spoiled brat, and the remaining 4 points are acting. When did you arrive? I said, just when you said to the heroine, "Can't you see that I love you?" Henry panicked. Then you saw me holding her. Sis, don't be angry, it's all acting. I even used a body double for the kissing scenes. Sister Wang arranged everything for me. I touched his face and asked him lazily, "Is there any show today?" Henry quickly shook his head. When I saw you coming, I asked the director to move back. He's not a big star yet, but he already acts like one. I seem to have seen that he will be neither very popular nor very famous in the future, but will be surrounded by negative news. Henry asked tentatively, "Then today, I will take you for a walk?" While massaging my feet, he asked me about my health. "Sister, are you tired? Why don't you go watch a movie first?" So, Henry and I went to the movies like an ordinary couple. Secretary Jack booked the whole place. Going to plow the road again. The bodyguard followed at a distance of 100 meters. Then went to play golf. Finally we returned to the suite, and Henry helped me remove my makeup and take a shower. Actually there is nothing to remove, just apply some sunscreen. He doesn't dare to think I'm ugly. After all, he took my money. This is why being kept is better than being in a relationship. I can be completely myself, vent on him, and ignore his feelings. Henry hugged me from behind. Sister, I think. I closed my eyes, I don't want to. Henry rubbed my neck and acted coquettishly. Please, sister. It's been a month and I'm about to explode. I'm so annoyed. When I was about to faint, I suddenly woke up. Why does it feel like we're in love? This can't be done. Try Steel Wool some other day. The ancient idol drama Falling in Love with You for 8 Lives and 8 Worlds starring Henry has been aired. The show flopped. Henry became famous. It really surprised me. Henry suddenly became busy, with a pile of press releases and also having to appear on variety shows. Looking at that plastic surgery face, fans said that this is called the strong color style. Henry has a dissolute face, but his clothes are very abstinent. The shirt should be buttoned to the top. Zipper your sweatshirt to the top. This is the route packaged for him by a professional team. His character is that of a rich young man who ventures into the entertainment industry. Until now, none of his elementary school classmates, junior high school classmates, or coworkers who worked in the same factory have come forward to visit him. I called Jack's secretary and asked her to be ready to expose Henry's dirty laundry. I ran into Alex when I was getting off work. I looked him over. It doesn't seem to be a coincidence. Alex looked exhausted. His eyes were especially gentle today. Grace, I don't know why, but I have been thinking about you these past few months. After saying this, his ears turned a little red. I know why. I recalled the information I had received previously. Betty is Alex's direct junior. I was confused for a while when listening to Jack's secretary's report. It's not like in ancient times when people apprenticed to a master to learn skills, so why is there such a title as direct junior sister? I just returned from studying abroad, so I don't quite understand this academic atmosphere full of social connections and factionalism. The students in Alex's lab were exploited quite a bit. Betty is also there, and she often asks Alex for help. After a few interactions, the two became familiar with each other. But there is no ambiguity. Until last Valentine's Day, Betty suddenly became interested in Alex. She is not like me who directly throws money at others, nor is she like my sister Gindi who likes to confess directly. Betty is very good at chasing people. Jack's secretary said that she also paid for a class on crush chasing techniques. I asked Jack's secretary to register one for Gindi as well. She is a pure love person, but she has never been successful in pursuing anyone, so she must be in need of it. I don't know why Betty is suddenly interested in Alex. Until I saw the Rolex Icelandy on Alex's hand. It's the same one I gave her last Valentine's Day. Betty had great fishing success. Alex spent a lot of money on her. My money. When I heard this, I laughed out of anger. But since Alex and I separated, major brands no longer sent him products on time and according to the season. He used most of the money he got from me to pay off his family's debts. There were also many luxury clothes that he had already given away. To his roommates, classmates, fellow students, and especially Betty. When he followed me, he got used to collecting these things, but he looked down on them, thinking they were a trap of consumerism, a product of capitalism, and had no value in existence. I don't care what he does with the things I give him. But after knowing this, I was still speechless for a few seconds. At this moment, Alex stood in front of me. His skin seemed rougher, his complexion darker, and his eyebrows less refined. He carries a heavy sense of class. It smells like cows and horses. Why did I fall in love with Alex in the first place? I tried hard to recall. At that time, my elder brother and I fought till we were bloody. My dad supports my eldest brother. My mother brought water. Only Gindi supported me. But her support was of little use. I worked so hard to grab a project that I had stomach bleeding. When I was squatting on the roadside, I met Alex who was delivering a takeaway. Without hesitation, he dropped his work and took me to a nearby hospital. As I leaned on his back, I smelled the aroma of the preserved egg and lean meat porridge in the incubator. Jack's secretary came and gave Alex $8,000 as a thank you fee. 2 years later, I took the position of general manager and became the sole heir to the Grace family business. The night I suddenly wanted to drink century egg and lean meat porridge, I thought of Alex. As a result, the next day, I saw Alex who came to the villa next door to be a tutor. At that time, Gindi had been crying at my house for a month because of a broken heart. She saw me looking at Alex a few more times, so she pushed me and urged me to have a relationship. The domineering female president and the poor school hunk. Sister, hurry up. But I have never been in love. I also don't want to be like Gindi, going through a lot of trouble for a love relationship. It's better to try another way. A common method used by wealthy families. That's how I found Alex. At the beginning, in order not to hurt his self-esteem, I provided him with financial support in the form of a scholarship. He was also introduced to another tutoring job, teaching Gindi advanced mathematics for $100,000 a month. Later, when Gindi ran away, the money became $300,000 and was directly deposited into his card. When he took the card, his expression was very embarrassed. I considerately changed the subject. Now, Alex feels that the dirty money is gone and he is not used to it, so he thinks of me. It's that simple. I smiled at the person in front of me. You don't miss me, you miss my money. Alex's eyes flashed with humiliation. Grace, why do you want to humiliate me like this? At the beginning, I didn't ask you to do this. You came to me and wanted to be with me. I never asked you to do this. I raised my eyebrows. Do you need me to apologize? Alex's eyes widened as if his neck was suddenly stuck, and his voice stopped abruptly. He stared at me blankly, then smiled bitterly after a long while. Grace, you know what? I'm the only one who doesn't love your money. Alex walked away, throwing a photo in front of me. In the photo, Henry and a woman dressed in mink entered the clubhouse. I asked Jack's secretary to send a message to Alex, asking him to buy out the photo for $5 million. Alex responded, "Why are you still cleaning up his mess?" I dusted off my cigarette. Because I already knew what kind of person Henry was. Just a sponsorship relationship. He served me very well. I don't care who he was with before. But Alex couldn't seem to accept it. He blocked Jack's secretary. The photo appeared on the internet the next day. The news soon spread like wildfire. Henry just became famous. In the words of fans, he moved a lot of cakes that were waiting to explode. As soon as there is a little bit of negative information, many internet trolls will rush in one after another. When Henry came back, I was making steak myself. Butter sizzle. The sound of the range hood is almost non-existent. The Maillard reaction looks very tempting. The aroma of roasted meat filled my nostrils. Henry seemed to know he had made a mistake. He circled me from behind and put his head on my shoulders like a puppy. "Sister, did you see?" My breath hitched. I actually doubted the authenticity of that photo. But Jack's secretary checked and found no signs of photo editing. She checked the source and found it in an envelope Alex received one day. But Henry told me that I was his first financial backer. And his technique was so poor the first time that it was reassuring. Jack's secretary also roughly checked his past. The small city in 18 counties is too far away, so I didn't let Secretary Jack fly over just for such a small matter. But after Henry came to City A, he only lived off me. So, I don't really believe it. There might be some misunderstanding. Until now. Henry said guiltily, "Sister, I didn't mean to lie to you. It's actually true." He really lied. I'm really not his first financial backer. I took a deep breath and calmed myself down. "Let's eat first." I walked out of Henry's arms. He froze, his arms still raised. "Sister, are you unhappy?" I shook my head and said, "No. Just felt a bit dirty." Henry's pupils suddenly contracted and he stared at me blankly. "Sister, what did you say?" I calmly cut the steak and said, "I have asked Jack's secretary to deal with the news on the internet." I took 2 bites of the steak, and when I was taking the 3rd bite, Henry carried me on his shoulders. I almost squeezed out the first 2 bites I took. "Sister, how can you think I'm dirty? How can you do this?" There was a tearful tone in his voice, but he was ruthless and carried me upstairs. I am different from others. I used to be very clean and never attended such parties. "Henry." I snapped, interrupting him. "Put me down." Henry didn't move. "Don't make me say it a second time." Henry sniffed, then insisted on carrying me into the bedroom and placing me on the bed. Bang. I raised my hand and slapped him. After being stunned for a moment, he came to rub my hand. "Sister, does your hand hurt? If you feel pain, I'll blow on it for you." His face, which had been praised so much by the marketing accounts, showed red marks and his 2 peach blossom eyes were filled with small pearls. I'm sure that the next second after he and I break up, he will find a new financial sponsor. "Sister, after you told me that last time, I asked Secretary Jack what the medicine was. I bought it and I've already eaten too." As he said that, he took off his sweatshirt and threw it on the ground. I kicked him in the abs. "I want to eat first." I suppressed my anger and said, "I'm hungry." Henry had a sad face and tried to recognize my expression, then sat down dejectedly on the edge of the bed. "Okay, sister, then I'll wait for you." I went downstairs and had dinner alone. Today's steak is not as delicious as yesterday's. It was also flown in from Australia early in the morning. But the taste just wasn't right. I remembered the time Alex stood me up. I'm not mad, I'm busy anyway. But today, I was angry. In the past, I spoiled Alex time and time again. Should I still indulge Henry now? I suddenly received a message from Gindi. She sent 3 voice messages in a row. Looks very urgent. My mother arranged a marriage for me. Sister, I don't want to marry someone I don't know, and I don't want to live a life with only money but no love. I don't want to be a puppet of a wealthy family, lose myself and become a walking corpse. I'm too lazy to reply. The voice messages came one after another. 60 seconds for a big movie. I didn't listen. After finishing all the work in the study, I returned to the bedroom at almost 10 o'clock. There was a big bulge on the bed in the bedroom. Twitch after twitch. Let me take a look first. Henry curled up into a ball, shaking. He turned to look at me, his face wrinkled like a steamed bun. His snot and tears were mixed together, but it couldn't hide his fighting features. If this photo was taken, it would definitely slap the faces of those haters who said he had plastic surgery. I touched his hairy head. Henry climbed up the pole and pulled me into his arms. I pushed his head away. He insisted on kissing me and pulling down my pants. He worked very hard while crying. Early the next morning, I smoked a cigarette and looked at Henry, who had fallen asleep from crying himself tired. Outside the floor-to-ceiling window is a small lush forest. The sun hasn't come out yet. The chirping of birds gave me a headache. "Sister." I lowered my eyes and took a look. Not awake, talking in sleep. Sister. I leaned in to listen out of curiosity. Cool. I am speechless. I got up for my morning run and didn't hear Henry turn over and mutter. Sis, I love you. 1 month later. I had just finished the meeting when Jack's secretary called on the intercom. Boss Grace, Mr. Zhou. I frowned. Didn't you take his elevator card back? Jack's secretary's voice sounded a little tearful. I received it. Mr. Zhou seemed to have copied several copies. Have the bodyguard throw him out. He's already at your door. My head hurts. The next moment, Henry walked in. If it weren't for his ugly expression, he would have looked pretty good taking those 2 steps. He was obviously dressed up, styled, and clean-shaven. Before he opened his mouth, I knocked on the table. Do you think the compensation is not enough? Henry smiled. Sister, am I this kind of person in your eyes? I didn't say anything. What exactly did I do wrong? Where? I don't know either. One morning a month ago. I came back from my morning run. When Henry, who was still confused, wanted to kiss me, I broke up with him. Henry suddenly came to his senses. Sister, did I behave badly last night? I shook my head. I'm tired of it, Henry. Henry was stunned for a moment. She was hooking my finger like a spoiled child, but suddenly stopped. I left a message saying that Jack's secretary would contact you and then left. Later, Henry came to see me several times. I know he doesn't want to. He asked me why. That morning. Finish running. I suddenly didn't want to do it anymore. Why so many whys? This is not a relationship. Even in a relationship you can break up suddenly. I just want to change people. I raised my eyes and looked at the person in front of me. It's really beautiful. It looks even better after being renovated by a professional team. Like mixed blood. I don't want to make things so ugly. Henry, I chose you because you are more clear-headed than Alex. After I finished speaking, Henry fell silent. You are a smart man, take the money and leave. Let's part ways amicably. What if I say no? Henry suddenly approached me. Familiar smell of shower gel. Sweet. Very refreshing. I refrained from hearing more. The moment he bit me, I slapped him. Who allowed you to kiss me? Henry, know who you are. Henry smiled. He smiled and kissed her again. Lips and teeth intertwined, saliva flowing. After the kiss, he left without looking back. I was left sitting there in a daze. Gindi brought her poor boyfriend to my villa. Although he has no job now, he is very awesome. The current environment is not good, and we can't blame him. Then, they made love and broke up and got back together in my villa. That's right, this man dares to be restless. Gindi punched and kicked him. The co-pilot seat is reserved for me. Can't you see what your junior is thinking? In the end, the 2 people reconciled. A few days passed. They broke up again. Gindi's eyes were swollen from crying and she said to me, this time we are really breaking up. I don't believe it. Really? This time it's real. I caught him hugging and kissing another woman. I didn't say anything. Sister, I am ready to go home for marriage. I put down the document in my hand, a little confused. Your marriage partner not only kisses other women, but also sleeps with other women. Can you tolerate it? Gindi nodded without hesitation. Yes, I don't like him. Sister, you spilled your coffee. Sister, what's wrong with you? I came to my senses. The coffee spilled on the ugly bear doll. That night, I came across the scandal between Henry and a top female celebrity. The 2 entered and left the same apartment together. I turned off my phone screen. Don't want to watch it. I figured it out. Why can I tolerate Alex's affair with other women, but I can't tolerate Henry having a financial sponsor? Why don't you want to continue with Henry? Just because I want to go on with him. But it's no use figuring it out. People treat me as their financial sponsor and I treat them as my partner. If you tell this to others, won't everyone laugh to death? I, Grace, cannot afford to lose face like this. Gindi went out to call her mother and came back looking unhappy. I'm really impressed. The marriage partner my mother arranged for me sounds like he's a promiscuous person. I returned to China halfway through college to pursue my dream of entering the entertainment industry. Henry's family didn't support him, but he actually found a rich woman. I'm going to marry him? Most of Henry's family's industries are overseas, and the domestic part is not in City A. I haven't heard much about Henry's family, so I don't know how my mother arranged it. Obviously, the previous marriage partner was not the Henry family. The next day, I accompanied Gindi to the blind date. I met Henry in a high-end restaurant. He stood next to a woman in mink. My mother said, "This is Henry's sister and her Henry." My smile froze on my face. Gindy's eyes lit up and her face turned red. She pulled my sleeve and said, "Isn't this the guy who is very popular now?" Humph, just as I thought, with this appearance, she must be very messy. Sister, why did you leave? I turned and left. I'm going to smoke a cigarette. When I came back, Gindy and Henry were having a great conversation. My mom and sister Henry have already left. Gindy was very happy. "Sister, Henry is a nice person." She said to Henry, "This is my sister, you can call her sister from now on." Henry smiled very distantly and called politely, "Sister." My heart ached. A strange feeling. I'm going to the bathroom. I looked through the bathroom mirror and saw a familiar figure. Henry walked over nonchalantly. He was wearing a beige sweater today, dressed very casually. The sapphire studs on the earlobes sparkle. The whole person is very old money. That is, spend a lot of money to install a small pendant. "Sister, long time no see. I'm going to be your brother-in-law, are you happy?" I don't want to answer. As we passed each other, Henry grabbed my wrist. "Sister, why don't you answer?" I suppressed my anger and said, "What do you want me to answer?" Henry chuckled. He suddenly changed the subject. "Did I act well before? Obedient little lover." I sneered, "Not bad. Is it because I acted so well that my sister felt she could just abandon me?" His narrow eyes narrowed and his hand stroked my wrist. The familiar touch made me feel distracted. Just when I could no longer bear it, he took a step back and distanced himself from me. "Sis, remember to call me brother-in-law from now on." The incense in the bathroom made my head feel a little swollen. I glanced at Henry and said, "No need to wait until later, I can call you brother-in-law right now." Henry's face was calm yet gloomy, and his jawline was tightly drawn. The moment I turned to leave, someone pulled me into his arms. 14 ending. Henry whined as he nibbled on my neck. "Damn, you think I care about you? Brother-in-law, you bit me and it hurt." Henry froze for a moment, then pushed harder. I pushed him hard. Henry pinched my waist and said, "Don't think I can't bear to leave you, I just want to take revenge on you." "Do you think I still like you?" My cell phone fell out of my pocket. Just then, Gindy sent me a voice message. "Sister, I won't disturb you and brother-in-law anymore. I'm leaving first. My brother-in-law wants to pursue you, and he asked me to keep it a secret. You must say it was me who told you. I feel like, today, he wants me to help him debut." A flash of embarrassment crossed Chuenron's face. My cell phone rang. It was my aunt calling. "When I put your handmade bear in the washing machine, something fell out of it. Henry came and called my phone. Don't listen. It's a diamond ring and a pink letter, like a love letter. Do I need to throw it away for you?" I glanced at Henry. His little face turned red. After a moment, he came over and kissed me in despair. "Sister, don't throw it away." After hanging up the phone, I looked at Henry. He puffed his cheeks, looking a little unhappy. "You know everything now. I originally wanted you to act out the scene of chasing your husband to the crematorium. That must be impossible. I am a well-known person and I cannot afford to lose face like this." Henry seemed to see what I was thinking and felt a little unhappy. "Sister, I'm going to punish you." I nodded readily, "Okay. I don't think you would dare to do anything." Henry smiled meaningfully. "Sister, I have a suite here on the 38th floor. Then I didn't see the sun for 3 days.